If you've never designed a website before, it can be a daunting process. Page design is usually controlled through combining a page's XHTML structure with an external CSS file. Knowing cascading style sheets well enough to control layout can take some time, and making sure your layout is compatible across multiple browsers can take even longer. While there is no substitute for learning CSS, Dreamweaver does offer you an alternative. Dreamweaver comes with dozens of pre-built starter pages that already have built-in page layouts driven by standards-compliant CSS. The CSS has also been tested across multiple browsers to ensure maximum compatibility. With that in mind, we'll use a starter page to help us create our site. So I'm just going to go up to File and choose New. Notice that we could also use the hotkey of Command or Control-N. Well, here we have the New Document dialog box, and we're just going to do a blank page, and our page type will be HTML. Now, as soon as you choose that, the third column here for layout extends down, and you can see we have a lot of options here. They span from a 1, 2, or 3 column layout. They have liquid, fixed, elastic, and all of that has to do with whether or not the layout stretches based upon somebody resizing the browser or whether it stays the same size. Well, we're going to do a 2-column fixed, right sidebar, header, and footer. This is going to give us a 2-column layout, sidebar on the right-hand side, header on the top, and footer on the bottom. You can even see a little preview of how the layout's going to look on the right-hand side. We can choose a document type. The standard is XHTML 1.0 transitional, so we're just going to stay with that. And then we have to tell Dreamweaver where we want it to place the cascading style sheet file driving the layout. We can add it to the head of the document. This is called an embedded style sheet. Well, that only applies to just this page. We want it to apply to our entire site, so we're going to tell it to create a new file, and we'll be prompted to save the new external cascading style sheet file as we create our XHTML page. So I'll choose Create, and you can see it's prompting me, where do you want to put this external style sheet file? Well, we have a folder in our site called _CSS, and I like storing all my cascading style sheet files in one external directory. It names it by default to call fix right header because that's the layout we chose. And that may not be the name you want for it, so it's okay to rename this. I'm just going to call it main. And as soon as I save it, here's our page layout. We have our header, here's our main content, here's the sidebar content, and if I scroll down, I can see our footer. Well, I'm going to go ahead and save this page as well. We haven't saved our file yet, so I'm going to go to File and choose Save. And in my root directory, I'm going to go ahead and name this Index. Now, you may have noticed this. There are a lot of sites where you'll have a page called Index or Default. And what's that all about? Well, when somebody browses to your website, let's say somebody goes to www.lynda.com, for example. On that site, there's a page called Index, and that is the page that's served up by default. So anything that we want to be our home page, we're going to name it either Index, or some servers like to name them Default. It just depends, and you could always check with your web hosting company. Okay, so let's take a look at what Dreamweaver actually did here for us. If we switch over to Code View, I can see that we have a really well-defined page structure. We have these div tags, and div tags really serve as structuring elements with XHTML. And they're named different things like container, header, sidebar, and they give us some clue as to what the content is. Now, the CSS that's driving it is contained in an external file. Using Dreamweaver's Related Files feature, I can click on that link to quickly go over and see these styles. If I scroll down through this, look how well commented these styles are. So the fact that we have a 0 margin for our first heading inside the header, it tells us exactly why this is happening. If you're brand new to cascading style sheets, this is a fantastic way of learning standards compliant CSS. You can come in here and see how these layouts are being created and why certain rules are doing certain things. So now we have a page that contains all the elements we need for our layout. We have a header, a footer, an area for our main content, and a sidebar. All we would need to do now is replace the placeholder content with our own text and images. We could tweak the CSS a little bit so that it reflects our color scheme, and we would be well on our way.